Hello everyone, Testing Elan welcomes you to the day 1 of the QTP training batch. Today's our topic is Introduction to QTP. Then we'll talk about various types of tools available in the market, what are the limitations of manual testing, what is the reason why people are moving towards automation testing these days, what are the benefits of automation testing, what are the drawbacks of automation testing, then how to decide that whether we should go for manual testing or automation testing of a particular application. For a specific application, how to decide it. I'll be giving you few rules to be kept in mind while deciding between manual and automation testing. Then we'll talk about automation process. After that, we'll have a brief look on the tool. We'll discuss the very basic features, record and run features, then object repository, how we can add objects to the repository without recording, drag and drop feature, and finally generating our own code. All these things we are going to have a look in this particular session. Okay, let's start it. Let me open up Notepad. Introduction to QTP. There are two types of tools available in the market. One is open source tools. Second is licensed tools. Open source tools are those tools which are available free of cost, like Selenium. It's an open source tool. Licensed tools are those which are not available free, like QTP. You only get 30 days trial version. After that, it asks you to purchase a license. There are these two particular types of tools are categorized as functionality testing tools, performance testing tools, and last is test management tools. Test management tools. Functionality testing tools like QTP, where we are using this tool to check the functionality of our application. Functionality in the sense we can say, suppose if I need to check the login functionality of Gmail, I'll enter some valid username, some valid password, and I'll click on sign in. Then I'll try to check whether I am able to log in into the application or not. If I'm able to log in, it's working fine. But my testing is not done. My testing is not complete. Then I'll try to enter some invalid credentials and I'll see I should not be able to log in into the application. Along with that, I should take some user-friendly message on the screen. Some appropriate message should be displayed on the screen. Something like enter valid username, password, please check your credentials, something like that. Next is performance testing tools like LoadRunner is available in market. Here we check the application under customer expected load. Suppose if my customer says that my application is going to be visited by 2000 people at a time, then I should check it up that if 2000 people are accessing that application at the same time, my application should not crash. It should work in the same way as only one person was accessing the application. It should not crash. Its performance should not be low. It should perform good. That is, LoadRunner is one of the examples for this particular category, that is performance testing tool. This LoadRunner, in this we don't need 2000 people sitting in front of us accessing the application at the same time. Here this tool creates virtual users on its own. Okay, last type is test management tool. Test management tools. These tools like Quality Center, which we are using for managing our whole test, like Quality Center, Test Director we can. So QTP let's talk about, as our topic is QTP. QTP was Mercury Interactive product. Later on it was taken over by HP. Now it's an HP product. It's a licensed tool. It's a functionality testing tool. Okay, now let's move towards limitations of manual testing. What are the limitations? What are the drawbacks of manual testing? First is time consuming. Time consuming. We all know that whenever we get a new release, we go for regression testing. In regression testing, we do two things. One is we check whether the error has been fixed or not. Second thing, it should not affect the functionality which was working fine earlier. So So every time when we get a new release, we execute the test cases related to the bug fix area again. So executing these things again and again with every version and doing all these things manually, entering the various data, then checking the outputs, all these things, this is very time consuming because we are doing everything manually. It's time consuming. Second is, we can say, after time consuming, that accuracy. Due to tiredness, due to repetitive tasks, human beings get tired easily, and due to repetitive tasks, there is lack of concentration sometimes. So there are chances of getting inaccurate results. Incorrect results. There are chances of getting incorrect results. Third is, in manual testing, we cannot go for performance testing. Performance testing, or we can say load testing, or we can say stress testing. What is this? Performance testing, testing the application under customer expected load. Then, if similarly I just explained you the example that if my customer says that my application is going to be visited by 2,000 users at the same time, then managing 2,000 people sitting in front of us, accessing the application at the same time, it's very, very difficult task. So for that, we have tools available in the market like LoadRunner, which creates virtual users for us, and we can test our application for 2,000 users. Load testing is similar, testing the application under customer expected load. Stress testing is testing the application above customer expected load. That is, we increase the stress. What if more than 2,000 people are accessing the application? Is my application crashing or is it working fine? If it is crashing, then we can increase our server configuration. Like these ESX servers are available, we try to increase their configuration. For more details on these types of testing, you can visit my manual tutorials or manual videos on these. All these types of testings are discussed in very detail. Last is volume testing. Volume testing is, suppose I am using some internet connection to know the exact speed of my internet. What is the download speed? What is the upload speed? The exact speed I cannot detect manually. I need some tool to know the speed. Manually I can just say that my internet is good today, my internet is bad, it's not working fine today. I can give some statement like this, but to know the exact speed, I need to have some tools through which I can test it. And the last is image verification. What is image verification? That manually, if I have to check any image, verify any image with exact intensity and brightness, it is very difficult. Our human eyes are not that much capable. For that, we have tools available through which we can verify any image with exact intensity and brightness. That is graphical verification. That is very difficult to achieve through manual testing. So these are the few limitations. That's why people have started moving towards automation testing. The advantages of automation testing is, first is efficiency. Efficiency means lesser number of people in lesser number of hours doing the same thing which more people are doing in more number of hours in manual testing. So here we can say less number of human beings plus less number of hours. Less number of hours. This is known as efficiency. Suppose in a project for automation, 20 people are working. 20 people are working for, let's say, 30 hours. But the same project, if we go for manual testing, let's say 50 people are working for 100 hours. This is just an example. So in this way, we can say automation testing is more efficient. Automation testing is more efficient because less number of people are there and they are taking less number of hours and doing the same task, which more number of people in more number of hours they are doing in manual testing. Next is, we can say another advantage is efficiency, reusable. Once we have created any script, we can reuse that script again and again. We can save that script in our hard disk and we can use that script again and again in the various tests, in the various projects. If some new project has come up that is using the same logic, that is having the same concept, then we can reuse that script. We don't have to write the script from scratch every time. We can reuse. We can reuse our actions. We can reuse our tests. We can reuse our functions. We can maintain a function library. We can reuse those functions again and again. That is the reusability. But that is not the case in manual testing. Last is accuracy. Once you have created your script and you have tested it correctly, it's working fine, then every time you get the accurate result. Scripts don't get tired like human beings. They give you the accurate result. Make sure you have tested it properly. If you have tested it properly, every time you will get the accurate result. And you can execute those scripts as many number of times. There is no point of getting tired. You can execute as many number of times, and always in every execution you will get the accurate, reliable result. Next is lesser number of people. Less number of people. Now then we can talk about limitations of automation testing. Limitation of automation testing. One is it's expensive. Tools are very expensive. Second is it requires technical expertise. Technical expertise. I just forgot one more point in automation testing benefits, that they are programmable, manageable, optimizable. Means if we have created some script, we can enhance that script. We can do the programming in that script as per our requirement. We can change our script as and when required. We can go for that. That is programmable, optimizable, enhanceable. Then expensive, and for automation testing we need technical expertise. You need to know, if you are using QTP, you need to have strong hold on VB. That is, you need to be technically expert. Then you can go for automation testing, and they are expensive. Another, we cannot automate all the test cases. It's not possible to automate all the test cases. Then we can say it is time consuming. Time consuming, in this we will say, to convert a manual test case into automation script, it's time consuming. What is time consuming? Converting manual test case into automation script. It's time consuming. So two more drawbacks are, we can't automate all the test cases. It's very automate whole of the application, and it is time consuming. The execution of scripts is not at all time consuming. What is time consuming? When we need to convert manual test case into automation script, this is time consuming. Okay. Now, very important question, how to decide whether I should go for automation testing or manual testing for a particular application. How to decide whether to go for automation testing or manual testing for a particular application. How to decide? Here you need to keep 2 points in mind. First is, how much big is your application? First is, how much big is your application? If your application is very big, then go for automation testing. If your application is very small, just 3-4 simple text pages are there, then go for manual testing. So the size of the application decides whether we should go for automation testing or manual testing. If it is big, go for automation testing. If it is small, only 2-3 pages, then go for manual testing. Second is, how much stable is your application? How much stable is your application? If the client's requirements are stable, if the requirements have been decided at the feasibility time, at the analysis time only, and there are no chances of requirements getting changed, then we can go for automation testing. If the requirements are not at all stable, daily client is coming up with new changes, with new features to be added up in the application, then never go for automation testing. Then at that time, or manual testing is the solution. The reason is that once we create a script, changing those scripts frequently, changing the coding part, changing the scripting is very difficult as well as time consuming. So if the requirements are stable, go for automation testing, else go for manual testing. These are the 2 points which need to be kept in mind while deciding for whether that you should go for automation testing or manual testing. Next is automation process. Automation process in QTP. What is the automation process we follow? First step, we all know, planning, or you can say analyzing the requirements. Planning or analyzing the requirements means first the project is studied, what are the requirements, what client wants, and planning is done. That is done by our seniors like project managers and team leads, and they decide what approach need to be followed. They decide which approach need to be followed. After that, we do the recording. The manual steps are getting recorded. We record all the manual steps. After that, we go for enhancing. Enhancing means we can add checkpoints, we can add synchronization points, we can add functions, we can add variables, we can change the script as per our requirements. We can add beauty to it, we can add functionality to it. So there are a lot of options available for enhancing our script. After that, we go for debugging. Debugging means checking for errors. If there are bugs, we'll try to correct those errors so that there is no syntactic or logical error in our script. For this, we add breakpoints in QTP. I'll be telling you about all this when we will move towards the concept of debugging. After this, running the script. Finally, the completed automation suite is made to run. We go for running those automation suites. Finally, analyzing the results. Whatever the results we get, analyzing the results, and we try to match. If the expected result equal to the actual result we are getting, if they are equal, then it's fine. Otherwise, report bugs, report defects to developers. Bugs are reported to developers. So this is the automation process: planning or analyzing the requirements, recording, then enhancing, then debugging, then finally running. Then after running, we analyze the result. If actually equal to expected, fine. Otherwise, we report defects or bugs to the developer. This is the automation process. Now let's talk about record and run. Record and run. The very basic feature of QTP. Let's have a look at the tool. To open up a QTP, you can click at Start and you can click on this icon, HP Quick Test Professional. Or when you install your QTP, it creates a shortcut icon on the desktop. You can click on that. Continue. Or one more option, click on OK. That is, you can go here, all programs. Then there must be one folder, HP Quick Test Professional. Then this third icon, HP Quick Test. You can click here, your tool will be open. This is the first page. When we open up our tool, you will get a welcome pack from our side that is going to have all the instructions that how you are going to install and from where you are going to download this HP Quick Test. We have a link in that welcome pack from where you are going to download and what are the various steps, how you are going to install. If you have Windows 7, Windows XP, Windows Vista, for every Windows we have steps written in that document, that how you are going to install. Next is how to open up a new test. We need to create a new test. Either click on this new, a new test will open up, or you can click here on this test, or you can go for this file new, then the first option, that is test. Or you can use the shortcut key Ctrl+N to open up a new test. Okay, let's see. Now we are going to look at record and run. See this button, record button. Whenever I click on this button or you press the function key F3, whatever you do after this, everything gets recorded. QTP records my each and every action. It records it as a movie, record every action of mine till the time I click on stop. Once I click on stop, it stops recording. And what the objects on which I have performed something, the objects on which I have clicked or I have perform some operation, all those objects get stored in the memory of QTP, that is object repository. That we will see. Okay, let's take up a very simple example. One more thing to be noticed here, that whenever you are going to work with QTP, make sure that QTP is compatible with two browsers. What are those two browsers? One is Firefox, another is Internet Explorer. Now QTP is compatible with Chrome also, but I haven't tried it. So I would suggest go for these two browsers, Firefox and Internet Explorer. QTP is compatible with these two browsers. And second point to be noticed, that your browser should be opened after opening QTP. Make sure that you are opening your browser after opening QTP. Third is, make sure that the zoom level of your browser is set to 100%. These three things you have to keep in your mind. Use either Firefox or Internet Explorer. Second, open your browser after opening QTP. Third, make sure that the zoom level of your browser is set to 100%. Okay. Now let's talk about, let me open up Mozilla and we'll take a very simple example which we all are aware, that is Gmail. As we will progress towards our course, we will start taking up some complicated examples. We will start taking up some difficult applications. So being the first session, I am taking up a very simple application which we all are aware of, and we will see the registration of Gmail. If I want to create a new Gmail account, then here first in QTP, I am clicking on record. I get this pop-up window. It has two tabs. One is web, another is Windows application. Web means internet-based applications, websites. Then Windows application means your desktop-based applications like your Microsoft Office, your calculator. We are working with web-based applications, so this is selecting. I'm selecting this web. Inside that, I have two radio buttons. What are those two radio buttons mean? First is record and run test on any open browser, whatever the browser I am opening after opening QTP, whatever I am doing on that, just record that. Second is, whenever the run starts, every time what I can give some application to be opened and I can choose a browser which need to be opened. So I can write down here www dot, or I can give the full path like this, www.gmail.com. I want to open up this application and I want to open Firefox 3.5, and I can click on apply and finally OK. See, my browser is getting open and my Gmail application is getting open. Every time when you will go for running, this thing is going to happen. Another option available with us is that if you don't want to use this automation record and run settings, you want to use the first one, then we have a command, that is systemutil.run. What does this command do? It helps us to open the browser plus the application through scripting if you don't want to use record and run settings. How come? Firefox .exe double quote comma, then I want to open www.gmail.com. This is the way. Let's close our browser. Now after closing our browser, let's click on run. I have the system util. My browser will be open and it will navigate to gmail.com. See, it is opening my browser and it is navigating to gmail.com. It's opening up Gmail, correct? This is one way out if we want to open our browser and application through scripting. Okay. Let's click on now record and click on create an account. Here in first name, let's give something, testing learn. This is just an example. Let's take password. I'm taking up. Then month, let's say March. This. Let's say select your gender. Then finally some your current email. Then you click here. You enter the captcha value. Then finally you select this terms and condition and click on next. It was just to show you the record and run feature. Let's see. QTP has created scripts for us. If you want to change the font size of your script, you have option, tool, view options, click on fonts and colors, select from here. Let's say I want 12. Okay. Now, what is this script saying? Every time when I go for recording, I make clicks or do some specific operations on any object. My script, every line in my script has two parts. One is the where part, second is the what part. Where part is the proper hierarchy to reach a particular object, and what part is what action I am performing on that particular object. Let's have a brief look on objects. What are objects? Everything on the application is an object. Everything on the application is an object. Whether it's a text is an object of class, web element. If it is a web list, it is an object. If it is a web button, it is an object. If it is a link, it is an object. If it is an image, it is an object. Everything on the application is an object. An object has 5 things associated with it. What are those? First is name. Every object has some name associated with it. What's that? Every object has some name assigned to it. Second is every object belongs to some standard class. These are nothing but mixed classes. Another name for standard class is mixed class. That if we have a text, that it is an object of class web element. If I have a text box, it is the object of class web edit. If I have an image, it is the object of web class image. If I have a link, it is an object of class link. If it is a list, it is an object of class web list. If it is a list, it's an object of class web list. So every object belongs to some standard class. Third is every object has some properties associated with it. Properties in the sense like we are human beings, we too have some properties. We have social security number, we have our password numbers, we have our address, we have our phone number, we have our email. These are the various properties associated with us. So every object has some properties associated with it, like it must be having some HTML tag, inner text, outer text, HTML ID. So many properties are there. Another next thing is every object has some methods associated with it. Methods in the sense, let's say if I have a car, then I can drive my car. That is a method associated with it. What action I can perform with my car. If I have a mobile phone, I can make a call, I can send SMS, I can send MMS, I can access internet. These are the various methods associated with my mobile phone. What I can do with my mobile phone. I cannot make a call from my car, I cannot drive my mobile phone. So every object has some method associated with it. Suppose if I have a web edit, see here in line number 2, in line number 3, it's a web edit, first name. I can set some value into the web edit. I cannot select any value from a web edit. I cannot click on web edit, but I can set. Set means I can insert some value in the web edit. Last is child object. Child object. Object has child objects associated with them. Suppose in this hierarchy, browser. Inside the browser we have a page, email from Google. page is the child object of the browser. These objects are maintaining parent-child relationship. Page is the child object of browser. Link is the child object of page. So object has child object also. Okay. So the part which I am highlighting right now till here, this is the where part. This is the where part of my line. That browser Gmail email from Google, inside there is a page Gmail email from Google, inside that there is a link, create an account. This is the hierarchy which I am following to reach my object frequency. The hierarchy which I am following to reach my object. This is the where part, where I want to perform action, which is that object on which I want to click. So this is the object. Link, create an account. What part is after this? What part is this? What I want to do on this? I want to click on it. I cannot set any value to a link. I cannot select. I cannot set, but I can click on a link. So what part is the operation, action I am performing? That is clicking on the link. Similarly, in line number 3, browser, Gmail email from Google, inside page, Google account, inside that web edit, first name, I am setting testing elearn inside that. I am setting testing elearn inside that. Similarly, 4th line, the portion which I am highlighting, this is the where part, that is still web edit last name. What I am doing, I am setting Vinny inside that last name. Finally, in this, see here in password, this is the where part. After that, see here, I am using set secure. Why I am using set secure, not set? That is, the reason is that for password, we don't want to share our password through scripting with others. So we are using the encrypted form of the password. To create those encrypted forms, QTP has provided us some options. Go to start all programs. So you click on the folder, this HP Quick Test Professional, then go to tools, this 4th icon, password input. Whatever your password is, write down there, click on generate. You get the encoded string corresponding to that password. Click on copy and you can paste your password wherever you want in the script. Finally, then set on. Set on is basically when you are dealing with checkbox. If you write here off, the checkbox is deactivated. When you are clicking on, writing on, your checkbox is activated, and finally you are clicking on next step, web button. There is a web button. This is the where part, this much. Then on web button you are clicking. The operation you are performing, that is clicking. So this is the code which QTP has generated for us while recording. When I was recording, everything got recorded here. It has created script form. Now every object which got involved while recording gets stored in the memory of QTP, that is this object repository. Look at this icon where my cursor is right now. This is object repository. Click on this icon or use the shortcut key Ctrl+R. Your object repository will open up. This is object repository. Every object. See, every object on which I have performed some action, this all the objects got stored here in the object repository. This globe icon, this is the icon for browser. See, the name is Gmail email from Google. The class is browser. Repository is local. Right now, don't worry about repository. This concept will be more clear when we will do the concept of shared object repository and local object repository. Then at that time, I'll be telling you the difference between the two. Right now, just take it as it is that the repository is local. For every object, whichever the object I click, let's say birthday, I get the name of the object, class, that it belongs to class WebEdit, then the repository local. Along with that, check out these object details. These are very, very important parts because QTP uses these object details to identify an object in the application. QTP uses these object details to identify an object in the application where it has to perform the action. QTP uses these details to identify an object. And these globe icon is for browser. This icon, yellow color icon with a small blue color ball at the left bottom side. This is for page. This blue color icon with the line inside, this is the icon for web button. This green color icon with ABC written inside, this is the icon for web edit. And terms of service, this is a web checkbox. Icon is like this box with a tick inside that. So these are the various objects on which I have performed some action while recording. All get stored in the memory of QTP, that is object repository. Suppose now I forgot to add one object in the repository while recording. How I can add object to the repository without recording? What is the way out? First thing, make sure that your application is open. Then go to QTP. Click on this icon, add object to loop. Clicking on this icon, QTP will disappear. Your application will open up. Whichever the object you click on, that gets stored here in the object repository. Okay, let's try it. Click here. Let's say I want to add this web element. Okay, and you get this web element here in your repository. Web element, your Google account. This is the way to add objects to the repository without recording. And if you want to write the code for this, you can use simple drag and drop feature. Simply drag this into the code and QTP will generate code for us. Browser this, page this, web element this, and web element this dot click. I am clicking on this web element from Google account. Till here it is the where part. After I click this thing is the what part. Clear till now? This is a drag and drop feature that through object repository, if you want to generate the code, you can simply drag it into the expert view and the code gets generated. This is a way to add objects to the repository without recording. One more way out is available. This object spy, this is a man with hat on his head. Click on this icon. In this, there is a hand. When I click on this hand, QTP disappears, application again opens up, and whichever the object I select, it shows me the properties of those objects, and I can also add that object to the repository. Let's try it out. Click on this hand. Let's say this web element now, this time I want this web element. It is showing me the properties of this web element. See again here at the top, I have the same icon which I was getting in the object repository. That is add objects to repository, add objects to local. Click on this and the object got added into the repository. Let's check it up. Yeah, we got, take it all with you. This was the web element. Again, you want to create the code, just drag it to the expert. Now, next thing is, suppose this is the name of the object. I don't like the name of the browser. I don't like the name of a particular object which QTP is writing for me. I want to make them more user friendly. Then I can change the name of the object. I can change. And the beauty is, whenever I change the name of the object, suppose I write here Pro for browser, and as soon as I will press the enter key, the name of this browser will get changed in the script also. Now, see, in the script, everywhere where the name was Gmail email from Google or Google account, the name of the browser, it changed the name of the browser to Bro. The name of the browser got changed automatically. Correct? The name of the browser got changed. Every time the name of the browser was Gmail email from Google and I changed the name to Bro, in the script at each and every line the name got changed everywhere. Similarly, this page, if I change the name of the page to, let's say, page, press enter, now change. Here the name of the page also got changed. Suppose for the second page, that is Google account, I want to change the name to page 1. Enter, the name got changed to page 1. Correct? Similarly, I can change the name of the object also. Now, one very important question here arises that whenever we change the name of the object, do QTP face any difficulty to identify the object from the application? Do QTP face any kind of problem? The answer is no. These names are just the mapping between the expert view and the object repository. These names, the purpose of these names is only the mapping between the script and the object repository. So whenever we change name here, it doesn't make any difference. QTP uses those names and check those names, match those names with these names, and identify that object in the repository. After that, QTP uses these test object details to identify the object in the application. So never ever try to change these details, test object details, which QTP is using to identify an object in the application. If trying to change, then please be very careful at that time. Otherwise, you'll get some errors that object cannot be identified in the application, something like that. So here, if you want to change the name, you can change your name. You can provide user-friendly name. As per your requirement, you can change the name. They are just the mapping between the script and the code. And as soon as you change the name here, you press the enter key, the name automatically gets changed in the script also. This is all about changing name in repository. Now the last thing which we are going to cover in today's session, let's read it. Now what if through object repository I want to write my own code? I want to write my own code from the object repository. First thing, we know that every line in the script has two parts, where part and what part. So let's write about what part. Suppose I want to write the code for, let's say I want to write the code for this, create an account link. On the first page, we were getting this link, create an account. I want to write the code for it. First is, I will write browser. Whatever I write, first thing, this is the name of the class. And whenever I put the bracket, whatever I write inside the circular bracket, that is the name of the object. Just remember these two things. Whatever we write outside the bracket, that is the name of the class, that is the name of the standard class, name of the mid class. And whatever we write inside the bracket, inside the double quote, that is the name of the object. Here, there is only one browser. So when I wrote browser and I put the starting bracket, QTP automatically wrote bro for me, because in the object repository there is only one browser. So QTP is helping me to write the code. Close the bracket. Then in hierarchy we have page. See this icon, purple color icon, stack type icon, this is the icon for child object. Page is the child object of browser. So again I am putting the starting bracket, it is giving me the various options, various pages in the object repository. The name of the page where create an account is, that is page. So I am clicking here and I am getting that there, dot, this is the link. So I will write here, link, child object link, then bracket. Which link is there in this page? Inside that page there is only one link, so QTP is writing that for me. Close. After that you can click on a link. Okay. These green colored icons, these are the icons of methods. What are the various operations I can perform on this particular object? Click. So this is the code I am writing for clicking on create an account, but link. Create an account link, not button. After that, let's say I want to write the code for first name. Want to write the code for first name. I can write down browser bracket bro dot page, selecting page. Page is now page 1. We have this object inside the page 1. Look at the hierarchy please. Dot, inside that we have web edit. We have web edit. The name of the web edit is first name. Click that. Dot. In web edit, we cannot click, we cannot select. What we can do, we can set some value. We can insert some value. So I can write down set. What I want to set, in double quotes, give the value. Whatever you want to insert here, just give that value in double quotes. Clear? Let us close our object repository now. Here at the top, let's write same command, system, util. If you are not using this command, then make sure that your browser is open. If your browser is closed and you are not using this command, what will happen? Your QTP will not be able to get the object. It is not getting the browser. It will wait for 20 seconds. I'll come to this concept of 20 seconds, that is object synchronization time out, in the next session. Then you will get some error on the screen that object cannot be identified. So if your browser is closed, make sure that you are writing systemutil.run to open up a browser. If not using, make sure your browser is open and already navigated to that application for which you are writing the script. Systemutil.run, then Firefox .exe, second is which application I want to. If you want to open up Internet Explorer, the code is going to be IE Explore. The code is going to be IE, just a second please, IE Explore .exe. If you want to open up Internet Explorer, write this thing, this single IE Explore. Just write down IEExplore.exe. Firefox.exe, www.gmail.com I want to open up. There I want to click on create an account and I want to set some value in the first place. Let's close our browser now. Let's run our script and let's see what happens. Opening the browser, navigating to gmail.com, clicking on create an account, writing in the first name. See here, Vineet getting written. Writing Vineet for me. It's writing Vineet for me. It's writing over first, so it's very likely it's visible. Just try to focus. It's writing Vineet. I can see. Then it stops executing. So it was all about today's session. Tomorrow we will move towards shared object repository. And I'll be telling about object spy in detail. We'll be doing test object properties, runtime object properties, the difference between CO properties, RO properties, some more real-time examples to tell you the difference. What is when we are going to use CO properties, when we are going to use RO properties, and shared object repository plus debugging concepts. Okay, alright, it's all for today. I'm ending up the session. Okay, bye bye.